Is there such thing as too much? Is there such thing as side effects here? Because everyone says this sounds great, like most of medicine sounds great until you read all the side effects and then see if you take one pill too many, you'll end up with, some kind of very long-term disability. So tell me about that, side effects, duration of how long can you use this?
If you cannot overuse it in a way that could be harmful. However, it could reach a point where your body just doesn't need any more of that.
A little wasteful then.
So then you're sitting there for an extra hour or whatever, that it actually isn't going to do much more for the body, or you really start to get diminishing returns. There's two areas that you would probably come across as a clinician if you have people that are highly toxic. And I know you treat a lot of Lyme, so you're watching out for that all the time. Then they may need to start slowly, because it does support detoxification, and you don't want to overload their elimination channels. And I'll bet you're balancing that every day of the week.
We absolutely are very familiar with that, especially if you're going through an antimicrobial stage where there's a lot of die-off and you're already getting a good amount of detox and IV pushes and everything, glutathione being pushed, all of that. Then you got to limit how much you're going to do other oxidative therapies such as NanoVi. So absolutely, I would agree with that.
And then the other thing that's really sweet about it is that it's easier to detox the liver or the kidneys or the organs and so on. But where NanoVi really shines is the cellular detox, where it's helping the cells let go of things, which is the hard part. So it's a great combination with other detox, and it's really supportive for certain areas. If they're going through something rigorous, it can really support the whole system and help them tolerate it.
So you found it can help detoxification of the interstitial tissue and connective tissue?
Yes.
That's great. Yeah. Because that's where it usually is stored.
Yeah.
People don't realize that that's what they should be testing for toxicity, not what is kind of being excreted is one thing. What's stored in that connective tissue is usually what leads to abundance of chronic issues.
And it's hard to get out. It's not like you can use chlorella or, something and so it's, that's one area that detox, it just has to be managed. And then the other one that's interesting is actually really good, but there can be discomfort if there's an old injury and it's not properly healed. And part of the healing process can be inflammation, that it needs to kick in some inflammation, acute inflammation, not chronic, the bad stuff.
Right.
And then it goes through that healing process. And so we see this, we only see it in athletes. It's some of the mixed martial arts guys were the ones that taught me about it, because they have all these injuries. They didn't heal them properly. They iced it. They went back in. And so then they'd say, oh, that's interesting. My shoulder's a problem, or my elbow, or whatever. But then they would resolve completely, which is a wonderful thing. And so you might get somebody that's got some old tennis elbow or something, and they say, it started to ache. And you're like, good.
You're right. In Europe, it's always, that's what they look for. In European biological medicine, you're looking for a reaction that it is either a detox or a slight inflammatory reaction, because those are both healing elements you require. But in the US, my father always said, in the US, you try and avoid that as much as possible, because people just stop. They'll say, I don't want 1 ounce of pain extra. I'm paying you to heal me, when they don't realize that healing is never a linear straight up, and part of that process is a little bit of discomfort as you heal, as you have inflammatory processes that are going to be acute and will resolve. But you're saying that shows up with those old injuries.
Oh, yeah. And these guys, in the US, it's classic to just ice it. And you've just shut down a whole bunch of stuff that maybe was supposed to be happening. And clearly there's a balance, because, you don't want it ballooning out or something. But it's there tends to be a lot of people that didn't really go through the whole healing process.
Well, that, again, is the wonderful part of this technology or this approach, it's getting you to catalyze that healing process. And sometimes that catalyzation is going to cause a little bit of discomfort, some of those things, but that is what you want. You want to heal and get back into self-healing rather than just management and trying to avoid any type of discomfort that comes along with the healing process. Now,
and that's one area where we've got the double-blind placebo-controlled evidence is in the ability to kick in the acute immune system or that acute inflammatory process once the body's been damaged. And so that is one of the areas that we've looked at on the science. And so I just thought I'd mention that, but it's clearly it's a double-blind crossover study, so it's clearly an impact for that.
No, that's great because so many people now, of course, in this day and age, 2020, with the pandemic going on, are all focused on immune response. And well, some people are looking at other things, but you should be looking, of course, at that immune response. And my father has always mentioned that, one of the greatest things that is underspoken or basically not referenced enough is people with lowered immunity and what that does, and chronic lowered. And of course, it all goes together. You can't just say it's lowered immunity, it's free radicals, it's inflammation. They all go hand in hand. But along with the regulation of the ANS, NanoVi is causing this acute immune response that can be helpful in stimulating immunity, correct?
Exactly. And that's that's a big piece of the problem. I think of the immune system as an orchestration of protein functions. So if you just help the proteins a little bit, it's going to make a difference. Help
those troops defend, correct? Yeah, it's arming those proteins, and that's really all we have in our defense system is this incredibly advanced immune system. And to provide them with the necessary tools to take on any foreign invaders. It's a lot of what we talk about when we look at things like Lyme disease and other infectious diseases that become chronic, is where is the immune system in all of this, and how come it's having such a hard time with all of these usually co-infections. So NanoVi has been a great part of addressing that.